The dying plea. The stars were silent. In the darkened command hall of the Xal'Tari Core Council, the last surviving delegates sat in a broken circle, light from shattered holopanels casting fractured glows across their scaled faces. Virex, once high envoy to the northern clusters, now merely a survivor, stared into the void of the galactic distress channel. Still no reply? He asked, though he already knew the answer. Counselor Cyril's voice came low and bitter. None. The YK are routed. The Drenari refused. The Vasin laughed. Virex lowered his gaze. Their enemies were beyond number now. But the worst betrayal had come from those they once called allies. Civilizations they had helped uplift, protect, lead, all had turned their backs. Pride had blinded the Xal'Tari for generations. Now, that pride lay in ash and glass across 100 worlds. The Velcrin swarm was not a conqueror. It was a hunger. It did not communicate. It did not negotiate. It consumed biomass, technology, memories. Once a world was taken, it did not die. It changed, twisted into a churning nest of spires and black skies. There was no diplomacy to be made. And now the swarm had reached Xal'Tari Prime. We should prepare the fail-safes, Cyril murmured. The purification protocol. No, Virex stepped forward, his voice firmer than it had been in days. We beg instead. Eyes turned to him, dulled by exhaustion, despair. He reached toward the panel and activated an ancient sequence. A pulse of deep blue light flickered across the room. Are you insane? One counselor barked. That signal hasn't been used in 10 millennia. That signal was made for when no one else would come. Virex's claws tapped the console, inputting the override codes. It reaches beyond our territory, beyond our sphere of influence, to the edges of known space and beyond it. To the primitives, Cyril said with scorn. To anyone, Virex snapped. The Xal'Tari have lost the right to be proud. If there is intelligence in the stars, if there is mercy, let us find it now, or die knowing we tried. The beacon roared to life. Frequencies cascaded outward in a lattice of languages, symbols, and pleas. No demands, no threats, only one message, repeated in every form of communication they could muster. We are dying. We seek help. Please. On Earth, the message was intercepted by an outdated SETI dish array in the Colorado mountains. The signal passed through layers of military encryption before it reached the United Nations Space Command. It took less than a day for every major world power to confirm. The message was real. And worse, it was right on the edge of a vast stellar dead zone, recently mapped and deemed uninhabitable. The debates were heated. Cynics called it a trap. Isolationists said it wasn't Earth's problem. But not all were so quick to dismiss it. One message was sent back, simple, direct, and human. Message received. Help is coming. Back on Xal'Tari Prime, silence reigned once more. Virex sat beside the dying embers of the council flame, the ceremonial heart of their people. He had not eaten in a day. He had not slept in 2. He did not care. His people were finished. Their fleets were gone. Their colonies were dust. All that remained was hope, and hope was a cruel thing. Until the console chimed. A new signal. A new language, one their auto-translators struggled to parse, but the meaning was clear. The voice was female, deep, and strange. Xal'Tari Dominion, this is Captain Alyssa Grant of the United Nations Expeditionary Forces. We received your distress signal. Reinforcements en route. ETA, 38 hours. Hold the line if you can. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Cyril whispered, barely audible. They're human. Virex didn't care what they were. They had answered, and in that moment, the ancient pride of the Xal'Tari did not die. It was reshaped by gratitude, by shame, and by the distant echo of approaching salvation. They had begged for mercy. Only humans answer the call, monsters in flesh and steel. The sky burned. Xal'Tari Prime's last shield dome collapsed under a searing lance of Velcrin plasma. The capital's towers buckled, glass and steel raining down like ash. Beneath the chaos, Virex ran through the choking smoke, clutching a youngling tight to his chest. The hatchling chirped in fear, blind to the horror unfolding above them. Behind him, the streets boiled with motion. Velcrin drones, insectal monstrosities of twisted carapace and cybernetic growths. Each one a predator, once a sentient being, now nothing more than a weapon. Virex ducked behind the husk of a ground transport, heart thundering. They were out of time. His comm cracked. Cyril's voice screamed over static. They've breached the inner spire. Virex, it's over. He knew it. No one had come. The human message had been a lie. A glitch. A final cruelty before the end. And then the sky exploded. Not in fire, but in thunder. He looked up, shielding his eyes. Dozens of objects streaked through the atmosphere, glowing like falling stars. The drones paused, sensing something they had not encountered before. The first pod struck the ground with a deafening shockwave. Metal slammed into stone, hurling Velcrin bodies backward. A hiss of steam, then the pod's sides split open. Out stepped monsters. Not the Velcrin kind, human monsters. Tall, armored, faceless. Gleaming black exosuits bristling with weapon ports and pulse shields. One turned toward Virex, and the visor lit up, scanning. Then it spoke, non-combatant. Civilian. Confirmed. Stay down. 3 more humans stormed past, unleashing a chorus of thunder from shoulder-mounted cannons. Explosive shells tore through Velcrin ranks. The drones shrieked, retreating, not from fear, but calculation. Their algorithms could not parse the chaos humans brought. Virex rose slowly, the child still in his arms, eyes wide with disbelief. One of the humans knelt beside him. A woman, he guessed from her voice. Ambassador Virex? She asked. The translator buzzed, decoding Xal'Tari syntax with surprising speed. He nodded, stunned. Captain Alyssa Grant, United Nations Expeditionary Forces. She offered a gloved hand. Sorry we're late. More pods crashed in the distance. Hundreds of them. Troops spread across the city like wildfire, mobile artillery, med units, drones overhead. In less than 2 minutes, the humans had seized control of the battlefield center. How did you know our location? Virex managed. We triangulated your last energy spike, she said, eyes scanning a tactical HUD hovering in her visor. Use the planetary magnetic field to predict drone movement. Also, we brought friends. As if on cue, a second wave of pods landed farther out. From them emerged vehicles, rugged, ugly machines on tank treads and repulsor skids. Virex had seen sleek warcraft before, but never like this. Human designs were brutish, scarred, yet precise. Your forces are holding? He asked. Grant turned toward the horizon, where Velcrin constructs loomed like skeletal towers. For now, she said. But this isn't a rescue mission. This is a stand. You gave us the call. We're answering it for everyone. Hours passed in blood and steel. Virex followed Captain Grant through the defense lines, observing the humans at work. Their ranks were diverse. Some barked orders in rapid English. Others cursed in tongues he didn't know. Their tactics were adaptable, efficient, emotionally reactive in ways no AI-driven army could predict. One soldier sang while firing a mounted cannon. Another sketched tally marks on her gauntlet, names of fallen friends, Virex learned. They fought not with obedience, but with fury, with purpose. They're unlike anything I've ever seen, he told Grant. She smiled grimly. We get that a lot. But why come? You owe us nothing. No, she said, but we know what it's like to face extinction alone. Earth's history isn't clean, Ambassador. But if we've learned anything, mercy is a choice. One too many civilizations forgot how to make. A distant rumble shook the ground. A new Velcrin hive tank emerged beyond the ridgeline. Massive, towering, covered in pulsating growths. Grant's voice turned cold. And that's our cue. She tapped her helmet. Iron Team, full deployment. Let's show them what humans do when someone calls for help. As her unit advanced, weapons blazing and war drums thundering from their speakers, Virex watched them go. Not as monsters, but as something else. Warriors. Defenders. Mercy, wrapped in fire and steel. The price of mercy. The smell of scorched metal clung to Virex's nostrils, even inside the human command ship. From a viewport of the UNS Gallant, orbiting the smoldering remains of Xal'Tari Prime's upper atmosphere, Virex saw debris drifting, some alien, some human. The battle below had paused, but not ended. The Velcrin were regrouping. So were the humans. Virex had expected chaos on their ship. Instead, there was order, a brutal, grim sort of discipline. The humans moved with quiet urgency. Faces drawn, eyes haunted, but they worked. They endured. Captain Alyssa Grant stood over a hollow map of the system, jaw tight. We've confirmed at least one Velcrin mothership beyond the event horizon of your system's red dwarf, she said. They're charging something. A waveform weapon, maybe biological. And your forces? Virex asked. Stretched, she admitted. We've taken 42% casualties in just 3 days. But we're still fighting. Virex studied the projection. The Velcrin presence pulsed like a wound across the sector. You should fall back. Leave this to rot. We're finished. No, Grant said. Her voice was iron. You call for help. You didn't ask for a miracle. We came anyway. The words settled over him like a weight. He followed her down into the medical bay, where the price of that mercy lay on display. Limbs lost. Faces burnt. One soldier, barely conscious, wheezed through a rebreather as a machine kept his blood from freezing. Virex paused beside a human whose chest was wrapped in regenerative foam. A young man, pale, barely breathing. He threw himself on a drone to protect a Xal'Tari hatchling, the medic explained. 3 minutes out of boot camp. Virex bowed his head. We never earned this. You didn't have to, the medic said. He didn't ask why. He saw someone in danger and moved. Back on the upper deck, the mood shifted. The lights dimmed red. A new force was deploying. Virex watched in confusion as human soldiers entered a sealed chamber, each one escorted by medical technicians and priests in armor. Who are they? He asked Grant. Her expression darkened. The Iron Choir. Choir. She nodded. They're volunteers, fused with machine cognition. They give up everything, identity, pain, fear, so they could do what the rest of us can't. The chamber opened. From it marched 10 warriors clad in matte black armor, glowing with red sigils. Their footsteps were not heavy, but final, like the closing of a tomb. They'll strike the Velcrin relay hive directly, Grant said. It's a one-way run. Virex stepped forward. They're sacrificing themselves. They chose this, she said. Every single one. A voice echoed from the choir's comms, distorted and beautiful. To those who cannot fight, we fight. For those who cannot stand, we stand. Where others run, we remain. As the Iron Choir launched toward the planet in piercing silence, Virex felt something strange, something raw. Guilt, yes, but more than that, respect, awe, even hope. Later, he stood alone in a corridor, staring at Earth's flag etched on a support beam. A simple blue sphere, surrounded by stars. The door behind him opened. You're quiet, Grant said. I believed our culture was noble, Virex replied. Disciplined, rational. Yet, in your chaos, your emotion, there is something more. Grant leaned against the wall. Mercy isn't rational, Ambassador. It's painful, costly, sometimes fatal. But when you offer it freely, it means everything. He turned to her, voice low. Why do you bear that cost for us? Grant looked at him, eyes tired but clear. Because someone has to, and we remember being alone, too. Hours later, word arrived. The Iron Choir had breached the Velcrin relay hive and detonated its control core. They were lost, but so was the enemy foothold. The Velcrin fleets stuttered in confusion. Some fell back. Others went dormant. The tide, for the first time, had shifted. Virex stood before the human dead, sealed in cryo-shrouds awaiting return to Earth. He placed a hand on the casing of the young soldier who had saved a child, whose name he never knew. Your mercy, he whispered, was not in vain. Behind him, humans lit candles in silence. They did not sing of conquest or victory. They sang of home, a new covenant. The fires had burned out. Xal'Tari Prime no longer roared or wept. It breathed, shallow but alive. Cities lay shattered, but not silent. Refugees emerged from tunnels and vaults. Engineers, scientists, civilians, fragile things blinking in the daylight, uncertain if it was real. And across the skies, human ships hovered not as conquerors, but as guardians. Virex stood atop the shattered remains of the council spire, now reduced to a jagged platform with a clear view of the horizon. Beside him, Captain Alyssa Grant surveyed the landscape with a steady gaze. "Our scans show scattered Velcrin remnants," she said. "Some in deep caverns, others dormant in orbit. We'll need a long-term watch." Virex nodded slowly. "And your people will remain? For now. Long enough to ensure you're not overrun again." He turned to face her. The wind pulled at his tattered diplomatic robes. "We owe you more than we can repay." Grant didn't flinch. "You don't owe us. But we do. We always will." The silence between them was heavy, but not uncomfortable. There was peace in it, earned, scarred, and real. The Hall of Ashes was once a place of judgment. Now it housed memory. Virex stepped forward, flanked by surviving Xal'Tari leaders and a delegation of human officers. The chamber's rebuilt pillars bore the names of fallen, not just Xal'Tari, but human. Captain Grant paused before one inscription. "Sergeant Benji Wolf," she murmured. He never said much, but he always smiled before a drop. Virex placed his palm against the stone. "We will remember," he said. "Not just your dead, but your choice. You answered when no one else would." He turned to the gathered crowd. His voice, though hoarse, rang clear. "We believed our civilization was the height of reason. That order alone would preserve us. We saw mercy as a weakness. Today I say to every living Xal'Tari, we were wrong." He motioned to Grant. "These people, humans, were strangers to us. Their culture, their history, alien. Chaotic. And yet, when we fell to our knees, they were the only ones who lifted us back to our feet." The chamber was quiet. "From this day forward, we will not hide behind pride or legacy. We will rebuild with humility and with allies. If the Velcrin come again, they will not face one voice, but many. Not one people, but a pact." He turned to Grant and extended his hand. "Let us form a covenant, not of power, but of principle, of defiance against annihilation, of mercy freely given and fiercely defended." She took his hand, firm and sure. "The United Nations accepts." Weeks passed. Human Engineering Corps worked alongside Xal'Tari architects to clear ruins, restore infrastructure, and repurpose surviving orbital platforms. Former civilians now trained with human instructors in combat tactics, evacuation drills, and field medicine. New ships began construction in orbit. Hybrid vessels bearing both banners, the Earth's standard blue sphere and the golden star of the Xal'Tari reborn. One evening, Virex walked the lower tiers of the rebuilt capital alone. The smell of spice leaf and burning plasma hung faint in the air. A group of human soldiers sat around a crate, sharing warm food with Xal'Tari technicians. One of them, a girl with braided hair and a prosthetic leg, was teaching an alien hatchling to play a game involving small painted stones. She laughed. The hatchling chirped. He paused, watching unseen. The line between savior and saved had blurred. What remained was something rarer still, understanding. In orbit, on the bridge of the Gallant, Grant reviewed new reports. Fleets of unknown origin were responding to the Xal'Tari broadcast, some with caution, others with hope. "You started something," her exo said. "No," she replied. "They did. We just showed up." He tapped a display. Still words spreading. The humans took a stand. "Let it spread." She looked out the viewport, where a Xal'Tari child's drawing had been magnetized to the steel. A stick-figure human and a six-limbed alien standing side by side, hands linked. Across the top, in rough block letters, it read, "Mercy is stronger than fear." Back on the surface, Virex composed the final entry of the Council archive. "We beg for mercy. Only humans answer the call. Not because they had to, because they chose to. And in that choice, they changed the course of history, ours and theirs. May we be worthy of it." He closed the entry and stared out the window. Above, two stars burned side by side.